So let's have a conversation about what your agencies are doing to promote economic freedom within the Black community.
Awesome. And I'll kind of start off here and then turn it over to Matt. So we're doing a variety of things. And I think it starts with the office that Matt sits in, and that's the Office for Minority Economic Empowerment, which was formed in 2016. And the reason I bring up that date is because we know my team was formed 10 years before that, and other bureaus were formed before mine. And what I think that tells us is that part of economic freedom and economic empowerment begins with recognizing just disparity and the lack of investment that has occurred over just years and decades. So I say that because now what we're doing is lifting up Black and Brown businesses specifically through our Office for Minority of Economic Empowerment. And then the Regional Economic Development Team is forging a relationship with the Office of Minority Economic Empowerment as the strategists, as the leaders, right? Helping to guide my team, which also serves as a frontline team for the state. And specifically, while we're focused on business attraction and expansion and retention and loan programs and grants, it's critical that Matt is identifying those majority minority communities, that Matt is helping us know that places like Cairo, areas like East St. Louis, areas like the east side of Springfield, areas in Champaign and Peoria across the state of Illinois, not only understand what programs are for them, but understand how the governments and the systems that are around them should be playing an integral role in that. And that is what I specifically focus on in conjunction with Matt, is how do we take the programs that are growing Black businesses, helping to create that ecosystem of inclusive support for Black businesses, but then marrying that with the programs that we roll out to incentivize businesses to grow. So when we think about enterprise zones and opportunity zones, how are we helping Black businesses know that these resources are available, but first take advantage of those resources once they do know? And we do that through working in lock and step with Matt's team. Then what we do is, again, making sure that we provide technical assistance, free confidential support, and customer service, right? We provide white glove treatment. We don't just say, hey, this is a great program, you should apply for it. We help walk them through what are the nuances of actually getting a certificate to save on building materials in an enterprise zone. Or how do you actually take advantage of our Advantage Illinois loan program, our Fund for Advancement for Minority Enterprises, where we have banking partners that will actually come up with a blended interest rate that's competitive for Black businesses that may not have the credit score. And it's important to have folks like Matt work with my team and other teams across DCEO, because we're in a lot of ways advocates. We tell businesses that, hey, we're going to work with you. We're not going to leave you here. We're not just going to throw this out here and hope that you apply for it. We're actually going to double down on creating that ecosystem of support. And we know that COVID-19 has been just devastating to the Black community. And I think what you've seen come out of DCEO through our Community Navigators program has been phenomenal. So the Community Navigators program says it's not enough if Matt and Jonathan has a team of folks helping folks, because we know that the need is so great. So we're actually going to provide grant dollars to Black community organizations in the community that Black businesses trust to help them take advantage of grant dollars and federal resources. So we know as the state, a lot of the time, Black folks are distrustful of government, and rightfully so. And so for me, there's no better way for us to double down on our commitment here at DCEO and supporting that ecosystem of support for Black businesses than by saying our work is not enough. We need more folks that actually understand what's happening on the ground. And so, going to turn it over to Matt to really talk about that, because he's on the ground every day working with businesses. And so, yeah, just thanks for that, Arielle. And that's a little bit of what we're doing here at DCEO.
And can I jump in right before we get to Matt, because I was writing notes. You guys know I'm a note taker, but I wanted to ping you, Jonathan, to say, please talk about the Community Navigator resource and also PTAX. One thing I just want to make sure whoever's listening to this discussion really understands, while CMS might be focused on vendors in our vendor pool who are registered as state vendors, DCEO, as I talked earlier, is thinking capital, like they're thinking at the statewide level. And so I just want to make sure that, sometimes we talk amongst ourselves and, folks assume it's just the state of Illinois. I have to be somehow engaged in state business. No, you do not. So I just wanted to clarify that there are so many resources, and we've partnered a lot as agencies together over the past, for a long while, but I think certainly in the last 2 years, we've doubled down under our current leadership. And definitely during COVID, I think we realized that we had to get more strategic and more aligned and to partner even closer. But one of the takeaways I always have when we do an event is how many more resources that DCEO is bringing to the table, that I get the benefit of listening to so many of them, right? And that they are free resources, they're confidential resources. These are best in class resources, by the way, but that they're for any business. And so I just wanted to underscore that so that there is no confusion when I start talking about our BEP program, that it's just for state of Illinois vendors, that it really is for, in this particular conversation, Black businesses and helping these businesses and these entrepreneurs grow their business.
So what I can add just sprinkle some seasoning on what you already out there. I think that, we started out talking about freedom, what is, freedom. We talked about social versus economic, and we boiled it down to choices and options and being in a position to choose for yourself what life is like for your community, for your family. And we work in a business capacity. So it's about choices and extending that freedom, extending power to people. And from a leadership perspective, at DCEO, and I know our sisters at CMS, we see leadership as not hoarding power, but giving it away as often as we can. We're trying to give people the power, or really help them tap into the power that they have. And we, strategically pursue that by empowering people with information, removing barriers to access, and then helping people build capacity, building their skills. And that's power. So we're trying to give people power or help them understand that they have it already. And a big way we do that on my side is community-led economic development. So it's not about us. I got a business card with a logo on it. I got a whole bunch of syllables in my title. I got an acronym behind my name, all of this and all of that. But, it's not about me. The solution to our community's problems is in the communities throughout the state. It's the business owners themselves, and it's those chambers, it's those business development organizations, it's those faith institutions, it's those block clubs, it's those business districts. Whenever those people are coming together, we are there to support them. A lot of what we do is community-led economic development. So I'm working with Black business groups, Rockford, Illinois, to Carroll, to Carbondale, Metro East, East St. Louis, Central Illinois, Springfield, Quincy, Illinois, Chicagoland, South Suburbs, West Side of Chicago. Anytime people are coming together to improve their community, state is there to help them put a battery in their back, clarify their plans, make connections to all of these resources that Brother Jonathan just mentioned, EDGE, enterprise zones, helping them connect with their municipalities on TIF districts, these community navigator resources to tap into these grants, small business development centers, PTACs. So we have the ecosystem, the system. We're trying to tighten up the system, but we're trying to create systematic ways of extending power to people. So it's community-led. We're on the ground with the people themselves, with the business groups themselves, helping them determine success, self-determination.
And we use a lot of acronyms in government. So to be clear, a PTAC is a Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And I don't want to steal my sister Arielle's spotlight here, but I want to talk about why CMS and DCEO work so closely together. In addition to all of the programs that we just mentioned, one pivotal program that we are working feverishly to ensure that Black businesses are aware of is the BEP program, which allows, again, for businesses to retain their taxpayer dollars. And I say that because it's not just tax incentives, right? Things that, taxes that you're responsible to pay because you're making money. But we all support the state government through our taxes And therefore, when government spends those taxpayer dollars, you should have that opportunity to compete. And so our procurement technical assistance centers double down on what we just mentioned about that ecosystem of support, helping folks get BEP certified, ensuring that individuals actually understand how to bid and actually how to navigate the different systems and programs in place so that they can get access to procurement dollars from state agencies, but more importantly, how they also can pursue company opportunities through supplier diversity efforts. And so our experts are over at CMS, but I'll end with Illinois is the first state to designate hub zones. And hub zones are federal procurement opportunities for businesses of color. So in short, our PTACs are there to help you add yet another resource to your toolkit. And so again, we'll turn over to CMS because I think that it's critical that businesses are aware of everything that's going on right now in terms of spending. And we know COVID-19 increased government spending, which means that it increased economic opportunity for Black businesses to create more economic freedom for themselves.
I won't be long before you because I want Arielle to talk about, and I don't know that we formally introduced Arielle, but I will remind everyone that Arielle is our Deputy Director for the MBEP Secretary. So she is our Deputy Director at CMS for the Business Enterprise Program, which you've heard us talk a lot about and we'll talk a little bit more about. But I will just touch on briefly some other things that CMS also is responsible for in the state ecosystem that might be of interest. And one is personnel. People make government, they make businesses work, right? And, you know, Matthew said a few things that I want to just kind of bring back up to in this conversation. One was about relevance. People look for trusted sources and resources. And so when one can see themselves, if they can see people that look like them, who understand them, who is engaged in community spaces or in other spaces that they're familiar with, there's a sense of like, I want to learn more about that organization. We need people to represent various communities across the state that we want to work for state government. We're all government employees. We all chose to be here, right? Everyone, we've talked a lot about choices. We had choices and we chose to be here. We've chosen to do this work. And I think part of doing this work for me that's exciting is the personnel piece, right? It's about how do we really rethink the workplace, work, but also recruiting a workforce that looks more representative of our great state. And so we're doing a few things at CMS, and I will not talk a lot about our hiring reform process, but I will say, you know, government sometimes takes some time to adapt to technology and to move into some of the practices, and the team here is laughing, of private sector business. So we had a paper-based application process. Many folks watching here probably are like, I can't tell you the last time I applied for a job on paper, right? Unless you were maybe applying in the state of Illinois. And so we're now moving to an electronic system where people can apply online. Obviously, off the top, you already know that allows us to reach a broader candidate pool, right? We get to interact online, we get to market online, we get to showcase our opportunities online, and actually connect with people in ways that we really weren't able to before when everything was either in person, right? So it was limited by people, or it was on paper. This for me is a huge opportunity. And again, we'll talk later or some other time about the other HCM, human capital management strategies that we have going on right now. But one of the most critical for me is to showcase and to just have folks that look like and represent the employee base that we want to help come and join us here at the state of Illinois. So I'll stop by saying we appreciate that relevance matters. We work with a number of community partners that do understand the state side, the government side of the house, but also understand the community side of the house and what the questions may be, what some of the barriers may be. Both Jonathan and Matthew mentioned a lot about barriers. Part of our job, as I see my job, is to break down barriers, right? Is to remove barriers, is to build processes, and in some cases, rebuild them, dismantle them, create something wholly different that we know allows for greater access, which goes back to greater options. So at CMS, I'll just talk about one brief thing that we're doing. We have our new online system. We are working with partners like the Urban League and others to help get the word out and help educate people about what it takes, right? Because applying for government jobs is not the same as applying for a private sector company to apply for a job. So demystifying that process. but also helping for some of our non-state employees. We say interns, right? But folks who are not employees of the state, whether they are younger or more seasoned in their career, to actually kind of peek behind the curtain and get a sense of what it's like to potentially work in government. And so we've expanded our internship program at CMS and across the state as well. And we've also partnered with great universities and schools and programs like Chicago State University to provide access, right? Because some of this is, for me, as a head of personnel for the state of Illinois, it's not just coming to work here at CMS or coming to work at the state. That'd be great. But for people who maybe don't have access to or are interested in and need to make decisions, and we want to have choices, having them have government be a choice. I'd love for an auditor to come and spend some time with us and decide, like, I don't want to do that, but I really love law, or I really love property management, or I really love fill in the blank. That, for me, is when we talk about doing the people's work, that's the part of giving access to information. And that information may land in a job or it may not result in a job. That's not my choice to make, right? My choice is to, and my decision is to try to open up access and pathways so that folks have the opportunity to see what they can do, see what they may want to do, but also for our communities to be able to have conversations about experiences, right? Experiences that might not be top of mind because it hasn't been our consideration set recently or in generations. So I'll stop there. I talked a little bit about personnel. We also support the governor's office with various DE&I opportunities and strategies across the entire state ecosystem. But the other piece of what we do, and we've talked a lot about it, is the support of the BEP, or Business Enterprise Program. Arielle is our deputy, as I mentioned, and can talk a lot about what she's done in her short tenure here, but she's really done to really elevate the program and to expand opportunities for our vendor community.
Thank you. Jonathan talked a little bit about identifying the disparities in order to be able to create an effective path forward. And so that's the first thing I want to highlight when talking about the Business Enterprise Program, is the disparity study that we're currently working through with Colette Holt and Associates. The disparity study process is super rigorous. We do everything from talking to primes and then talking to BEP vendors, talking to agencies, and collecting that information to truly identify where disparities lie. And we know the numbers may not always be everything, but data is very important in your process to identifying strategic paths forward towards success. And so that is one of the things that I'm really excited to be working on right now within BEP. One of the programs that we're building out for launch in 2021 is our Mentor, Protege, and Capacity Building Program. Statistics show, McKinsey recently actually did a study on it when thinking about how do we transform and build out the success for Black businesses specifically, and that mentorship piece is really important. If you think about it and you are a Black business owner and entrepreneur, you don't usually have someone to call who's already reached that $1 billion mark and help you walk you through that path. And so that is the idea behind the Mentor Protege program, in addition to, ensuring that we're able to build the capacity of BEP vendors and making sure that they then have the opportunity to participate as a prime and grow and be able to really have representation within state procurement. If you're not interested in a mentor, that capacity building piece is still there. And so how do we partner with the CMS DC, a WBDC, which are organizations in the state that do this work, the PTACs that were previously mentioned, to make sure that we are intentionally educating BEP vendors so that you're not just sitting around with a certification, but now you're moving forward and you're actually able to scale. Another piece that this offers you is the exposure. So not only are you being exposed to state government procurement, but now if we're partnering with corporate partners to be able to deliver this capacity building, the large corporate partners that do business with the state of Illinois, and they're serving as a mentor, now you're exposed to opportunities outside of the government sector and into the private sector, and your business is scaling and growing and diversifying your clientele as you're growing in revenue, and also being able to grow and bring jobs to your community. and developments and so on and so forth. And another piece, though, that's very important, the work that we do in BEP is creating an equitable lens in the way that we look at our processes throughout the state. And Director talked a little bit about that in regards to personnel, but when we talk about it for the procurement process, the goal setting is an entire process of the way that we set goals on different contracts, on how much we want to engage BEP vendors, ensure that BEP vendors are able to participate. And so we looked at our goal setting methodology at the beginning of this year and making sure that it had a more quality representation of not just Black businesses, but all businesses that are BEP vendors are able and willing to participate with state government. And so, having that more effective goal setting is a sure way, to identify opportunities to engage Black businesses as well. The last thing in regards to, creating that equitable lens, that processes are those, again, that personnel, those individuals who are making all these processes go. And so just recent legislation requires that diversity, equity, and inclusion training be given by the CPO's office to all individuals that work within procurement. And I think that's going to really help us be able to push the needle forward, as now it's not just the job of BEP and CMS and DCEO to look at those things with through a lens of equity and pushing for progress, but it will be now encouraged throughout the state. So really excited to continue to do this work and to continue to push forward for progress in partnership with DCEO.
And just one more thing, Arielle, for me, one of the things I want to make sure doesn't get left unsaid is that Black and brown, but Black businesses, is the topic of the conversation today, are primes. We have many successful Black businesses right here in Illinois. We have many successful prime, and I say prime meaning they can do the work if they chose to, if they wanted to themselves, and they can also choose to subcontract as well. And so one of the things I also want to, underscore is that part of what we're trying to do is create the conversation, right? That is back to cultural relevance. Understanding what a Black entrepreneur did 10, 20, 30 years ago to be at a place where they can decide to take on a 30, 50, whatever it is, $1 million contract or $10 million contract with the state and do other business. Having that opportunity through the mentor protege program where they may be a mentor. And in some cases might be a protege to even grow even larger, that there are opportunities to learn from so many people in so many ways, right? It's not just majority owned businesses or super large businesses. That is, of course, part of the equation, but there are a number of very successful, and I say large is relative, but very large businesses that have offered to be partners with us and want to be part of this ecosystem and want to share information. And